getting to know you, having a good nose about you, having a gander, looking at what makes you tick.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Proper Gander. Yes, the show that no one asked to come back, but me and Len thought we'd bring it back anyway. Joined, as I've already said, and you've heard him singing along now, is my good old mate Len. How you doing?
How
Len?
nice is it to shrug off the deadwood and have a proper gander again in their own leisurely time?
It is. I hope this is a good one.
They're a fucking burden, aren't they, that other lot?
Yeah, well, they, we soldier on. We soldier on.
Still our guests to make up for it, no doubt.
I hope so. Those that I do hope so. Those that know the format of Proper Gander, it's normally where we decide whether someone is a tanner or not a tanner. But this person here, we'll start. There's no finding him. He is a tanner because he's
undeniable.
Undeniable. So
served the town impeccably.
He did. So I'm going to introduce you to people, to a player or an ex-player. I don't know, we can call him an ex-player. He played for West Ham. Not everybody that plays for West Ham gets to play for the first team, but for me, everybody that pulls on the shirt at any point in their time and got to play for West Ham has always got a story to tell. And I hope the person we've got, I will introduce him in a minute, has got a good story to tell. I know bits already, and I hope he's going to reveal new bits of what it's like to be a young footballer at West Ham in the 1970s. So I'd like you to all welcome Lou Murphy to the show. Hello, Lou.
Hello, boys.
How you doing?
How we doing? Yep, good.
Keeping well?
I am.
That's good. Yeah, I'm not too bad. Thanks for asking. So those that don't know Lou was a member of the West Ham youth setup from 1974 until 1977, was it? 76, right, okay, for 2 years. It was a good period. A lot of good players were at the West Ham at the same time as Lou, and Lou will hopefully get to learn what it's like to be an apprentice footballer in the 70s at West Ham United. To begin with, I'm going to read out what appeared in the West Ham United Tranmere Rovers programme. When was it, Lou? September 74, did you say?
October 74.
October 74. And it's in the setting of Young Hammer. It's on the first page as you open the programme as well. Star billing, page 2, Lou. About the only time you probably was page 2. Lou Murphy was born Stratford. That I never knew. London on the 19th of October 1957. So that means you was born in what, Queen Mary's in?
Queen Mary's,
Not
yep.
Plaistow Maternity?
No.
Oh, right, okay.
I knew that. I knew he was born in Stratford.
Oh, right,
so
okay.
I asked him.
All right, well, there you go. He attended Tollgate Primary School, Plaistow Grammar, which then became Cumberland Comprehensive School. You also played for Newham Boys in the under 14, 15 and 16. You played for Essex Boys as well. The Cumberland team in which he played won the London and Essex County Tournament and was the holder of the National Championship. So basically, Lou, you was part of the best school in the country.
It was. Not academically, though.
No, not academically, and it certainly went downhill by the time I got there.
There you go.
And then Lou had signed associated schoolboy forms for the Hammers April 73, and you became an apprentice pro 1974. Welcome, Lou.
Thank you. Nice,
and of course, I need to add that Nigel and Lou both share the same grandparents, which means they're cousins. Allegedly.
Yes.
No, his mum's my cousin.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
His mum's... Oh, okay.
So Lou's mum and Lou shared the same
great-grandfather.
grandparent, and he was my great-grandfather, yeah.
So that's the second cousin, isn't it? Or a cousin wants to move. It's not a fucking...
Second cousin, yeah.
Genealogy podcast.
It's not who do you think you are.
No.
Yeah.
You know, we're not starting around here.
We don't want to go down there, Nigel.
Oh, man, I'm like Bertie Bassett. But anyway. So Lou, growing up, obviously, it says here, Tollgate, you grew up around the the Prince Regent Lane area,
Yeah, that's right.
going Cumberland, proper West Ham heartland. West Ham fan as a kid? Must have been.
Well, I was, but could have easily been Millwall.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Took a
So,
fucking
do you want
dark
to
turn early
actually?
doors, isn't
That
it?
reminds me. Yes. Now, why would it have been Millwall?
Well, because my mum was from Canning Town,
Yeah.
and my dad was from the Old Kent Road.
Yes.
So I could have very easily been Millwall, but he never ever. He liked football, but he was never a football man as such. And he moved over here. So when I started going, probably I don't know, 7 was my first game, and it was absolutely incredible. I thought, walking into that ground and seeing the grass so green,
Yeah.
and it was you couldn't start well. It started at the top and worked down really. It was West Ham against Man United, and it was Moorhurst and Peters against Bestlaw and Charlton. And I think we actually won 3-2, if I remember.
Was that the cup game?
No.
No, that would have been the semi-final.
I think it was. It was 1965. I was about 7 years old at the time, and I went with my cousin because his dad wouldn't let him go because it was Man United, because it was going to be, and it was absolutely going to be Rams. So he said, you can't go on your own. You have to go with someone else. So he took me, and we was. I don't know if you'd even remember it, but it was so crowded. We was hanging off the side of the South Bank. I don't know if you've ever done that.
What, in the corner?
There used to be like a ledge, and there'd be like the iron angle that was part of the stand, and kids would stand on there, and you'd hold on to the iron angle above and be standing on the other one, and it was all asbestos.
Okay.
And you could only see, well, what could you see? You could see the top of the goal, so you didn't know what happened if it went in at the bottom. But it was brilliant. I mean, absolutely fantastic. So exciting for a kid.
That was August 1964.
Was it?
Yeah.
I was about to say, it has to be there in the season for the grass to be green.
I
Yeah.
don't know. It just seems so green,
West Ham won 3-1, it says here. Johnny Byrne, Jeff Hurst and Johnny Sisson scored the goal.
I did it.
Big crowd, 'cause obviously it must have been the first home game after we'd won the FA Cup.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, you Johnny come late, that's what you're trying to get to. Dad was a Millwall fan, we won the cup before you turn up.
No, the funny thing is when I remember the 64 Cup final,
Yeah, cool.
and sort of, it's the first real thing I remember at West Ham. It was like, my dad went, he thought it was funny. He said, well, I support Preston. And like when you're a kid sometimes, you side with your dad, don't you?
Yeah.
I could have been a Preston fan.
Only because he supported Millwall, he wanted Preston to win. But when you think about it, yeah, you've been right, you've been 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Right, what a way to sort of come into sort of... It's just the same, somewhat the same with me and you, Nigel, really. You didn't have to wait long to see a cup win.
No,
But
yeah.
for Lou, it was the first win of our history.
Yeah.
And his mother was an Hammers fan.
Yep. And all the family was on the side, my mum's side, which is the same side as Nigel.
Mm.
I mean, was you a regular attender over there?
Yeah, all the time after that. Anything. And even go and see the reserves and the youth team. It was just, I just loved it.
So, did you go right up to the point that you was taken on as a schoolboy? Was you a fan right to the point you're taken on as a schoolboy?
Oh yeah, always been a fan. Yeah, absolutely.
Is,
West Ham mad, and it was just. I mean, it was crazy just to be about at that time.
Yeah.
You know?
Was there a moment that you was on the terraces and you said to someone next to you or whoever you're with that you said, I'm signing for West Ham? Did that happen or?
No. No, I mean, the progression is, you play for your primary school and then you go to senior school.
Yeah.
And then if you're any good, you get a district trial. And If you're good enough, you get in the district team, and then it just progresses from there. And obviously the scouts are about. I mean, I played for primary school, but our school got thrown out of the league because we could only play friendlies because 2 years above us, they had a big fight with a school called Monica in East Ham, and they threw us out of the league, so we wasn't allowed to play in the league. We had to play friendlies. So we played very few games, But I was actually told some years later, there was a scout at West Ham called Arthur B. Lamb, and he said to me, well, I've grown. And I went, sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. He said, well, you've grown since you was 11. I went, what do you mean since I was 11? And he said, oh, we was watching you when you was 11. He said, I remember you. And I was quite surprised. It just shows you don't know who's watching at any point,
Don't say that, Lou.
So was this while you was playing for the school or for Newham?
Just for school.
No,
this was like a primary school.
All right.
And then when I went to senior school, Plaistow Grammar, that's where I first met Paul Brush. And he was on a different level to anything I'd ever seen before. And there was 3 kids in Newham at the time. There was a black kid called Ozzy Tutu, and he was phenomenal. This kid, he was like a little Pele, he was. And then there was Brushy, and then there was Curbishley, and they was on another planet to the rest of the kids. He used to like Paul Brush. He was just. It seemed that he'd play kids on his own, teams on his own, And he was like, I think he was captain of Newham Schoolboys when he was about 9. Him and Curbishley and Ozzy too. They all played a year above themselves. They was that good. But I mean, he played with us, and even then, you'd learn things from him. You didn't know because they was just that far advanced to the rest of us.
What I get from your teammates, Lou, is not necessarily a sense of community, but you all seem to know about each other as kids, and all the scouts knew about you, and there was a simple progression, like you said, from junior school to senior school to district team, and then the natural progression is that you were kind of picked from the district team, West Ham. Maybe there might have been a Chelsea scout there or something, because they cast their net quite far and wide, maybe Tottenham, maybe Arsenal. But there was never...
all the scouts are everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the job to see all the kids.
Yeah.
But when we was 11, when we started at the grammar school, West Ham used to send some of their younger players out coaching in the schools, and we had Patsy Holland, and he come into school, and he sort of said to me, "Do you play with the district?" I went, "No." Didn't give it a thought. It was just a game to me. I never really had any ideas of even playing with the district or anything. I just used to kick a ball. That's who it was. I didn't think anything of it, So even when you'd think like Paul Brush and these people playing with the district, just thought it was on another level. But you don't realise. But what happens is gradually the more football you play. I mean, I had Newham trials, I think, when I was 12, but I didn't get through that one, And it was only a couple of years later that I actually got into the Newham team. And it was, but there would have been scouts everywhere. You'd always, you didn't necessarily know who they was, but you knew when Wally St Pierre was there, and you'd see him go up and talk to parents. My parents never come because there was 5 of us kids, so they couldn't just spend all their time looking at me. But it was you'd see him and think, oh blimey, he's getting picked up by whoever. There was a few of the boys in the team was already at West Ham before I got there. And it was a good team, very good team. I think they won the London and Essex every year from about under 11, up to under 14, under 15, all the way through. I think they might have lost one of them once. That's how good they was. But you had a pretty good start with, Paul Rush and Alan Curbishley in the side. And there was other players who was, by the time we left school, I think there was 5 of us went to West Ham, 2 went to Coventry, 1 went to Chelsea, and all the others were like training with professional clubs, and even some of the reserves. I mean, that's how good it was.
I mean, I've got the program here that says announcing that they'd signed. So we've got youth section news. This looks like the first program of the season. It says we find 5 young players, but 3 of them from Cumberland. I mean, that's 3 out of 1 school's a lot. Paul Brush, Lou Murphy, and Gary Sproul, who was goalkeeper, was Gary?
Yeah, he used to go to Tollgate with me, so we knew each other from 7, or less than that. But there was another one actually, Pat Creasy.
Oh right,
he signed.
He was there.
He was on trial at the time, and he come through and he joined as well as an apprentice. So there was 5 of us.
And then it says another Newham schoolboy, Alan Curbishley, who had also represented Newham, Essex, London, and England as a schoolboy.
Oh, he was he was phenomenal at the time. He's everyone knows the stories of him being called Wiz and all that. He was, and the thing about it is he knew, he actually knew
how good he was.
Oh, he just, I remember him saying to me, when I first sort of met him, we used to play on a Sunday we played for Vicarage Youth Club in East Ham.
Oh, right, yeah.
And he joined us because him and Brush used to play with Fairburn, but then they joined us at Vicarage Youth Club. And I remember him saying, I'll probably win 6 medals this year. And I thought, how does he know that? But he was just used to winning everything, because him and Brushy were like that good. They could just carry teams, But they had there were so many good players in and about Newham at the time. And they was amazing, the number of good players. But I think that goes for sort of every year group in Newham. I don't know what it's like now, but they would win most of the Essex and London Cups at most ages.
The 5th one that made it up in the programme was Derek Fraser, but obviously he was 17 when they signed him.
Was he?
Yes, it says 17. He's nearly 17, it says, but had been playing for Forest Mechanics in Scotland.
Yeah, but he came down when he was 15. I think he came down and lived here.
All right.
Because we also, after we left Vicarage and we played with Riverhawks, and then we was the first year that had to start school at 16.
Yeah, I was going to get to that actually, because there was a big reading through some of the old programmes in my research. They sort of weren't complaining, but they were saying there may be a bit of a lapse with the youth recruitment due to people were unsure of the rules now, because people could no longer leave school at 15, they had to leave school at 16.
Yeah.
So therefore, would a 16-year-old still be classed as an associated schoolboy? So youth football at the time hadn't really understood the rules from what I was reading.
We wasn't actually allowed to play. Sorry?
Was you still at school when you joined West Ham, or was it that's when you left?
I was at school when I signed, obviously, schoolboy forms.
Yeah.
But once we left school, then we just, the next sort of week, we was apprentices. Yeah.
Right. Was there any other clubs looking at you, or that was sort of, apart from West Ham, was as you said, there's a lot of scouts hanging round. Chelsea.
Oh, there was. Yeah. It was. The reason I signed schoolboy forms is me and a mate of mine called Barry McCarthy. We went to Coventry.
All right.
And we was actually training in the holidays at West Ham. And I was just leaving the training ground to go get in the van back to Upton Park. And Ron Greenwood said, "See you tomorrow." And I went, no, I'm going to Coventry tomorrow. He was like, what do you mean you're going to Coventry? And I went and got in a van, and all of a sudden they come out and said, all right, Barry and Luke, you come in the office. And there was, who was there? Greenwood, Lyle, Ernie Gregory, and Bill Lansdowne. And Ernie Gregory was going, he was sort of saying, what are you doing? He said, you're local boys, you're in Plaistow, what are you playing about at? We was like, we're just going to have a look around. But we went up there. I mean, he actually signed from Barry McCarthy. What happened is the same day, he's Wally St Pierre. We went back to Upton Park to get our expenses, and Wally St Pierre said, Ron's been on the phone. He wants us to sign schoolboy forms. Can I come round your house tonight? I sort of went, yeah, all right. And so, Wally St Pierre comes round your house. I mean, my brother was like, he was a West Ham fan. He used to be outside the ground getting autographs. Mm. And Wally St Pierre come in the ground, in the house, and he was like, Jesus, it's Wally St Pierre. Which is a bit surreal, really, because, I mean, he's, after the World Cup win, he was the man who sort of helped England win the World Cup, because he had discovered the World Cup trio, as they were called. And they serialised his story in the Sunday People for a few weeks. So he was a famous old scout. I mean, certainly if you're a West Ham supporter, you'd know Wally St Pierre.
And he was West Ham man through and through, wasn't he?
Yeah. But the funny thing is he'd come in my house, and my dad told him to sling his hook.
I could imagine.
And you know me, Dad, yeah. And it wasn't because he was Millwall. It was because, he couldn't go to grammar school when he was a kid because they couldn't afford the school uniform.
Yeah.
And that used to happen to kids. And he said to me, you want to go to university? And I was like, I don't. I want to play for West Ham. And he said, well, say you get injured. And he was saying, Wally St Pierre, he's not leaving school. He ain't got it. He was like, calm down. He ain't got to leave school. He just said, Ron's asked me to sign him so we don't lose him to Coventry or whatever. So actually, me and Barry McCarthy actually signed that night, and we went to Coventry because it was already arranged. And they asked me back, but he actually went back and he actually signed apprentice for him. And he was a good player, Barry McCarthy, but it didn't work out for him. But I just wanted curious, go and have a look. I mean, there was no way I'd go anywhere other than.
Who was at Coventry at the time? Anyone that was it? Dave Sexton? Jimmy Ord left by then, didn't he?
Joe Mercer.
Joe Mercy. Oh right, yep.
Joe Mercer was in charge. I remember.
Became England manager for one game.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was there, and he was quite old. And who else was there? Bill Glazier, the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Morris Setters.
Yeah, he was Republic of Ireland assistant manager.
That's right, Jack Charles. Yeah, I mean, Tommy Hutchinson was there actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, who scored both ends in the Man City
81 Cup final. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it was all them sort of people you saw on your bubblegum cards,
Yeah. So you when you finish school, now West Ham straight away. Are you going to join us?
Yeah, I mean, well, what happened is I think we was, I think pre-season actually started before the actual official date of leaving school. So I think they had to start training because I was injured, but so they had to do a week for nothing.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, because I suppose officially you leave school end of July.
Yeah.
Right, so you couldn't start.
Yeah, but I mean, what had happened to me is when I should have been revising for my O levels, but I decided to go training at Chabweath, and I got a grass burn on my knee. I went septic, and I had an abscess on it, and it was just terrible. It was really bad. I mean, it got to the point where I had to go to hospital down in remember the old Seamen's Hospital down Custom House?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go down there. My dad took me down there, and he said, "Jesus Christ, lucky you brought him here." He said, "If you hadn't have brought him," he said he could have actually lost his leg. I was like, "What?" But because of that, my leg was sort of weak, and I don't know. I think I missed the first 2 weeks I missed the pre-season 2 weeks of all the running, and then what happened is I went to my first day's training, and Rob Jenkins strapped up my knee, and I stupidly kicked a ball and just ruptured the tendon under my knee, and I was just miles behind everyone else.
You say you're miles behind everyone else. Who was in your hopeful position when you got
my
there?
hopeful position?
Yeah.
What was your position? I don't think we've said it yet.
Well, preferably, yeah, I like to play in the number 6 position,
Right.
next to the centre half. But but I got into the district team and the county team when I played once was as a left back. That was like my route in. And in the way probably would have been either Johnny Dumphy or Tony Tuddenham. And they was good players. I was actually, when we met up down the Black Lion last week, I actually said to Tony Tuddenham, for the life of me, I don't know why I ever joined West Ham when you was in the way. Because I thought he was that good,
He was highly rated, wasn't he?
Yeah.
They didn't bring him from that distance if they didn't fancy him.
No, I mean he always seemed a classy player to me, Tony. But I don't know. I think the thing you don't understand is you see people and you don't understand why they don't make it, or why the club don't fancy them.
Yeah.
It's something that I think because everyone, you'd always find everyone, wouldn't you? Like people you go to school with, and they'd say, "I used to go to school with so and so, but he was useless at school. I was better than him," and you get that, and no one understands how. And it's something I said to some of the fellas about, when we meet up, is I don't know, how do you know? You're a professional. We don't know. We just don't know what it takes. There's just something there which the layman doesn't know.
Yeah.
Because we all watched, didn't we? And there's 60,000 of us saying, we're all watching it and saying, well, why don't you put him on?
Yeah.
He's better than him. And you're wondering why. Why don't they give him a chance? But there must be something that we don't understand.
Yeah.
Is it a luck of the draw? I mean, one player
Yes.
you may have come across playing school football, same age as you, is Kevin Bond. Now he would have.
No, he's a year older than me.
Oh, was he a year older than you?
Yeah.
But for me, you look at him and you think, was his career done by his dad?
You didn't rate him, Nigel, no?
I don't think he played for Newham Boys.
No, and
he went to South West Ham Tech.
Yes,
which was Alan Curbishley's school.
Yeah,
yeah. And I think, in fact, I used to have a mate who was in the same year and said he wasn't in the school team. Now I might be wrong. I don't know. I don't remember him at all. But Paul Brush and Alan Curbishley might remember because they played a year above him quite a lot.
Yeah.
Curbishley would certainly know him.
Yeah. But I mean, he started at Bournemouth, managed by John Bond, went to Norwich, managed by John Bond, played for Man City, managed by John Bond.
And he went to Southampton, not managed by John.
No,
Bond,
but
didn't he?
but then he's had the luck of the career, hasn't he?
Yeah.
At the beginning, it was just
I think he's had. I think he probably had more opportunities, but I mean, he ended up as an England B international, didn't he? So he could do it.
yeah. Perhaps I'm being a bit. It was just that there's someone that I knew come from the area. I knew he went to South West Ham Tech, and I think I'd heard from someone separately about Kevin Bond. They weren't all that as a player at school, and he was either a late developer or he had that extra help in allowing him to develop late. So I mean, I'll read out that. So roughly back then, you had one youth team or group of youth players. How many would it be? About 15, 16? I mean, the names I've got here, you've already mentioned. So we've got Tony Tuddenham, who came from Norfolk, was it?
Yep.
Definitely like a carrot cruncher up that way. Derek Fraser from Scotland. Then we've got Gary Sproul, who's local like you. Dave Danson, another goalkeeper who seemed to. I don't know where Dave is from, but
Dave was
Chelmsford,
Chelmsford,
Essex. Yeah,
and he was England's schoolboy goalkeeper.
Yeah. So he'd followed literally the path that Mervyn Day had probably trod a couple of years before him. Merv also come from Chelmsford.
And Nigel Spink come from Chelmsford as well.
Yeah.
There was another goalkeeper that Dave Danson talks about come from Chelmsford. Hotbed of goalies.
Yeah, perhaps that's where I went wrong.
Yeah.
We've got Pat Creasy, who was a local Cumberland boy. Chester Brown.
Chester, what an athlete he was. Yeah.
Matthew Hill.
Hill, Buxton,
Then we've got Alan Curbishley. Chris Smith.
Smudger,
Yeah, Paul Brush, we know. John Domphy, who was South London, wasn't John?
Croydon.
Yeah,
Croydon, yeah. Terry Sharp.
Sharpie, well, we went to Pretoria.
Easily. Oh, right.
Canning
Town boy. Same as Frank Lampard then. And then obviously you, Jeff Pike.
Jeff Pike, he was from Thurrock.
Yeah. So, I mean, there weren't really. It's not like the days of today where they were drawing them from Europe, or I mean, I suppose Malcolm Fraser's the one they've brought down from Scotland. So a lot of it was local. I imagine it was a tight knit.
Well, I think on one or two occasions we actually played Newham boys versus the rest.
Towners versus out of towners. Is what you're trying to tell
just like little games. And Chrissy Smith, who was born at Stratford, he actually played with the out of towners.
All right.
Wow.
Oh, just to make the numbers up, I guess.
No, because he moved to Havering, Romford, somewhere, I think.
All right.
All those players. I mean, a lot of them went. Chrissy Smith, Tony Tuddenham, Dumphy. I mean, they was playing in the reserves at 15. You know, and I think Smudger might have even captained the reserves. He was always a captain.
I mean, the out of town boys, I'd imagine they had to then move into the area, move into digs.
Tony Tuddenham, Mallehill, Derek Fraser. There was another kid from in our year group, was a kid called Peter Robinson, and he come from Scunthorpe, and he's known as Scunny. But I never heard of him before he signed apprentice. He was just turned up and he was there. But all the others you knew from either training with them or because what happened, because we had to stay at school and we couldn't actually play for West Ham's juniors or that. And they never used to allow kids like now. They have like under 10s teams and things like that, don't they? The professional club. And it was all, I suppose it was all like illegal at the time in football terms. And so Ron Greenwood decided that he teamed up with Poplar Boys Club down Chris Street in Poplar.
All right.
And he said, all right, he got us all together. And he was, the funny thing was, he didn't have enough players to begin with. So they had to bring, and that's where Terry Sharp come in. Paul Brush said, I know a good player we can bring in, and they brought in Sharp. He wasn't with West Ham at the time. And he said, right, what we're going to do is we're going to play in yellow and with light blue shorts because he liked Brazil. And he said, so we played with them. And Derek Fraser, because of that, Derek Fraser, because he couldn't play in the junior team either, and he'd left school and come down from Scotland, I think. And he played with us. But he was training every day.
So when you leave school,
yeah,
what is life as an apprentice footballer like in 1974?
Well, I had to take a wage cut when I actually joined West Ham because I was my granddad. He had a sweet shop, and my mum's family, a lot of them were market traders, and a lot of them had stalls in Rathbone Market, so we could always get jobs. And so I was working in the sweet shop, and I used to work on my uncle's fish stall in Rathbone Market, which is a smelly old job. So I was like getting £10 a week, which is quite a lot of money for a kid of like 15, 16 at the time. I joined West Ham and got £8. So I had to take a pay cut.
And so would you train every day? But what was your chores like? I mean, we hear the days of cleaning the boots, sweeping the terraces, painting the stadium. Was that what life was like?
We had to, generally what we'd have to do is you'd have to lay out all the kit for the first team, and then you'd have to go through. You used to have to dry it. They never used to wash the kit. They used to dry it. So you'd wear the same kit for 5 days all through the week. It used to stink like anything. And we'd also, before games and after games, so we'd have to get the place ready. So everyone would have a job. So there'd be the out-of-towners, like Dave Danson, Chrissy Smith. They used to have to look like Chadwell Heath, and then all us who was like living in the sort of Nurham area, we'd have to do all the stuff at Upton Park. Sometimes, I mean, do you remember how bad the pitch used to be?
Yeah,
it's terrible. Sometimes they'd like just send us all. We'd be training and send us all back to Upton Park because the pitch wasn't ready for the game on a night time, and we'd have to like sort of all get out on the pitch and try and smooth it out. It was like sort of laying asphalt. You'd have to sort of smooth the mud out, and as soon as they run out, it was all big holes again anyway, you know. But also the other thing you used to have to do is you used to have to clean the boots, and I don't know if you know who the boot man was. It was an old fella called Jack Leslie.
Yes.
And he's known as Jack the Boot. And they used to say, like when you're a young kid, oh, go and see Jack the Boot and help him. He'll show you how to clean the boots. So you go in there and he'd tell you stories of like when he was a kid, and especially me because I was injured. And he said, "Well, what you done, son?" I was like, "Oh, I've done my knee." And he told me a story about how he did his knee, and yeah.
Well, he was a Canning Town boy, wasn't he?
He was nice. Yeah, but he played for Plymouth.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
And evidently it come out in the last year or so, was it?
Yeah.
The story of him not being picked for England.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was something that was sort of unsaid at the time. Yeah. But then a group of Plymouth fans obviously made it sort of be known, the stories that he got picked for England while playing for Plymouth because he was an ex-Fairburn boy.
Was he?
Yeah, grew up in Canning Town, and somehow ended up playing for Plymouth. Did really well for them, scored lots of goals, got picked for England, and then it was picked then by a committee, and one of the committee members then went down and watched him play after picking him. The rumour is that they realised he was like a man of colour, and then didn't officially call him up. So the story was he'd been picked. It was put out he'd been picked. They went and looked at him before announcing the squad, and then admitted him. And this was like 1925.
Really?
There's quite a good picture of him actually playing for Fairburn at Upton Park, walking out on the pitch. This is after he'd retired. This is So I think the story goes he just turned up at West Ham one day, knocked on the door, and said, "You got any jobs?" And told Ron Greenwood who he was, and Ron Greenwood knew who he was and hired him.
Oh, really?
Just like that. But yeah, he was. So he played, I think, near enough all his career in Plymouth, but then came back. But yeah, I think he was at West Ham till the mid-80s when he retired.
Yeah, but we used to have to clean the boots with him, and sometimes, I mean, you're a kid of 16, you're not really, you just want to play football, don't you? You don't want to clean everyone's boots. Yeah. And sometimes we just used to do quite a shoddy job, and sometimes we just used to put the polish over the mud.
Did you know whose boots you were cleaning? Is it like one of these?
Sometimes you think he kicked me the other day. They get a bad job done on their boots.
In training, was it ever? I mean, you got Ron Greenwood. Ron Greenwood. You're at the West Ham Academy as such, and we were sort of supposed to be known for bringing the youth through. Was it one of them things where you was brought in to play with the senior players in training, or was it separate?
No, I mean, the first season I was there, it was when they beat Fulham in the cup final.
Yeah.
And I mean, after I got injured, I mean, as I said, I was way behind, and I couldn't even get a game. It was that bad. I mean, it was probably I probably had the first year of my apprenticeship was probably the worst ever for everyone, I should think. But quite often, I would get sent up. They at that time they used to train at a gym in Redbridge at Fairlock. I'd quite often get sent up and play with the first team, and quite often I'd get sent to play with the first team. And I mean, it wasn't on merit, obviously, because I couldn't even get in the youth team. But and I used to spend sort of. I mean, with West Ham would play keep ball for hours. That's where the whole philosophy of the West Ham way sort of come from. I think is it was about keeping the ball. And I'd spend hour and a half chasing Johnny Harris about because we'd actually play man to man. So there'd be like Trevor Brooking and Billy Bonds, They'd be doing man to man on each other. Frank Lampard. I mean, it was a good team that year. But I mean, you'd think it was great, wouldn't you, to actually be sent to play with the first team? It was terrible for me because it meant I couldn't play with the youth team, And also, what they needed is they needed someone else to pick up the kit, which is one of the jobs you do as a kid. So it's a bit, and sometimes what they do is like the people, like, I mean, very quickly, like Alvin started to show up as being a bit exceptional,
Because he came in the same year, didn't he? But didn't he come a couple of months after you?
No, he came on a trial, I think.
Right.
I remember seeing his first game. He was playing he just played, and the next minute he was an apprentice. But I mean, his ambition and determination was phenomenal. He was single-minded, and that's what you have to be. I mean, I don't think I had that. I would always be ready for a laugh and a joke, and it's probably that's probably part of your downfall. I mean, when Ron Greenwood came in with P45, he sort of said, your attitude is not the best it could be. He's probably right,
How did that come about?
What do you mean?
Well, the
What, the end of it?
yeah, the turn down. What would you, the reject? Not rejection. That's not the right word. The
sack is basically.
yeah.
I mean,
Is it
what
the
happens
rejection?
is you got an apprenticeship, so everyone has a varying amount of time. It's up to your 18th birthday. That's the maximum of it. And so on your 18th birthday, they either have to say yes or no. But you can sign at the time. You could sign professional at 17, like an Alan Curbishley did, because he was just that good, And I think what you had to do is in the month before your 18th birthday, you just had to go and find out, and they'd just say yes or no. So it's.
So that's why players. That answers a question. Actually, I wonder because you would read in the program players released halfway through the season.
Yeah.
And you'd think, well, that's a bit of a funny thing to do. But
Yeah.
obviously it's because their birthdays, their 18th birthday had turned up, and the club were like, no, not for us, son.
And that's it. I mean, it's funny. I mean, it's very funny, that they're chasing you and they sign you on schoolboy forms. But I mean, everyone knows the rules of the game. But it's a rat race, and if you're not good enough, the rules, you just get discarded. I think the thing is some players are not expecting to be discarded, and then it's a real blow, isn't it? But it was, I don't know. I mean, I remember I had to go and see Ron Greenwood. And the fella was a phenomenal coach, and his knowledge of football was amazing,
So was it right? Let's get this right, because I'll tell you why I want to get this right. So Ron Greenwood's got to say, and who stays and who goes. People remember this is when John Lyle is now, or perceived as being the manager of the club.
No, he was the team manager.
Team manager, yeah.
And John, and I mean, I don't ever remember really at the time Ron Greenwood. I mean, he was always joining training quite a lot, But he would be with the youth team.
Ron Greenwood.
He's very strong on the youth team. That was a thing, and he left John Lyle to do the first team. But I mean, they used to talk about what they were going to do with the first team, because I mean his wealth of knowledge was phenomenal, wasn't it?
How did you find him as a person?
As a person,
yeah,
not very good, because he never picked me.
I got the feeling you was about to say,
what?
An amazing man, all this courage and that, but as a person, an absolute fucking, lousy. But what it comes, because when I talk to other footballers, especially those of your class, for want of a better word, as in your youth team, those who they at that time, when you had the transition between John and Ron, those who got picked by John like John, and those who got picked by Ron like Ron. And there were some instances that Ron liked the player and John didn't like him. And there was probably the other way around, but it certainly does seem that the hiring and firing right up to the end was done by Ron.
I don't know whether he just did it. I mean, no, they'd obviously talk. I mean, Boise was our boss, as apprentices, and they held him in the highest esteem. Boise, I think they sort of thought he was like just on par or just below, the three England players. That's how highly they thought, and he was technically a superb player. I mean, you only have to think of that goal he scored at Main Road. That must be probably the most technically wonderful goal ever. He's hit it on the half volley, and it's come from the side, and he sort of cut across it, and hit it on the half volley from the centre circle. Oh, it's an incredible goal. But he had that. He was a really. I mean, I think he packed up a bit early, didn't he? But,
Yeah.
And he was phenomenal, technically. But I think they all had a hand in it, and Bill Lansdowne, I think they'd all put their sixpence in. But I think at the end of the day, it would have been Ron Greenwood who made the decision. I mean, in my case, it wasn't a decision to be made. I didn't think I was going anywhere, so I didn't expect anything,
At not one point did you sort of let yourself get carried away and think that it might happen. Because when I talk to you, I don't ever get the feeling that you ever thought that you were going to make it. But I only see you in the company of players that did. So.
Well, no, I was just, I got injured, and it's part of the game, It's some people say, well, you got injured as though it's an excuse, but it don't really matter. It's part of the game.
Yeah.
And it's fair enough, because no one says, well, we would have won 4-0, but if you hadn't been injured, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah. And what
can't change it. You can't change anything.
Nah. And did that injury carry on after West Ham? What happened after West Ham?
I tell you, well, what actually happened is a mate of mine, who's an apprentice at Orient, a fellow named Terry Hunt, used to play for Newham with, and he got me a trial at Orient, and so I left West Ham on the Saturday on my 18th birthday. And,
happy birthday. Fuck's sake.
Happy birthday. Yeah, that's a nice happy birthday,
isn't it? Cheers, Ron.
Yeah.
You coming of age, all right?
Yeah,
Fuck off down the road.
So you're out the door.
Yeah.
And so I went down to Orient, and I was there. I mean, but Orient, they was probably a bit smaller at the time, and everybody trained together. So I was training. We was playing in game, and playing with Laurie Cunningham,
Mm-hmm.
He was there at the time. What a player he was, and there was Bobby Fischer, and who was there? Bill Roffey, I think.
Tony Grealish.
Paddy Grealish, yeah. All them. Nigel Gray, John Smolders. And they had a very good youth team at the time. But
He was in the youth team.
No, John Tadose was a bit later.
Wasn't he?
Yeah. I remember playing against him. Jesus Christ, he was fast. Yeah. So I went there one day, and I was waiting at the Green Gate for the 58 bus. The next day, it didn't come. I just cut my losses, went home, and got a job.
Just like
Yeah, my professional football career, if there was one, finished at the Green Gate. Yeah.
Waiting for the 58.
Thanks for London Transport.
Do you think it would have been different if the bus had turned up?
I don't know. I don't actually, to tell the truth, the more I think about it, I don't think I was really suited to it at all, I mean, it's all a bit of a dream for any kid, isn't it? So
it was like West Ham or bust, basically. Or was it? I mean,
no,
or was it just football life? You didn't think that being a footballer was actually after doing the 2 years? You thought, oh,
no. No, I didn't do 2 years. I'd done 15 months.
Yeah,
but it probably was if I can't play at West Ham. I'm not really too interested in playing with anyone.
No,
which is a bit silly, really, isn't it?
I mean,
only in hindsight. That's not how it felt then.
But the funny thing was, is I actually saw Paul Brush. I don't know, around that day, the day after, and I said, they said, "Oh, I thought you was at Orient." I said, "No." I said, "No, I'm not even going to try now." And I said, "See if I can come back and just play in the youth team as an amateur." So I'd had such a bad time, I thought, surely I can't be that bad. And I actually just probably went back to prove something to myself that, and being a West Ham supporter, I probably didn't want to be like, have, such a bad taste in the mouth that I didn't do very well.
Yeah.
So I actually went back and played, which I actually loved, So I was back playing with the boys again. So
as an amateur.
Yeah. And I think I actually become captain, So when all the big boys like Alvin and Curbs and Brushy were in the reserves. Yeah, Boyce would actually make me captain. So quite nice.
You did play for the reserves, though, didn't you?
Yeah, I did play for reserves. I think I played a couple of combination games, and I played in. What do they have at the start of the season? West Ham United 11s, which is really the reserves. I played in about 5 of them, and I think I was sub about 5 times, something like that. But it's and again, even that's a different level, you know. I mean, if people watch it and think you're watching the reserves and you think, "God, this is rubbish," or "It's not very good," Jesus Christ, you try playing in it, and you really, it takes some people just glide through it, you know. But if you're just coming up through the grades, it takes a bit of getting used to.
Yeah,
you have to get the grips with the speed of it, you know, because people are thinking a bit. I mean, when I played in that game that you was talking about, when we played.
This one. So you played against the one I've got here. So you're playing against Spurs at Upton Park.
Yeah.
We've got Nigel Spinks in goal, who went on to win the European Cup 6 years later. You're playing. There's a Boylan, a White, a Stott, and a Baldwin. So the defence I don't really know. Then we got Ferguson.
Well, actually, in that defence, Boycey played as a sweeper.
All right. So Boycey, Adi Coker, Terry Urlock, and Assassins.
Yeah. And Bobby Ferguson. And for people listening who may not realise, Nigel Spink and Bobby Ferguson were both goalkeepers. So where was Bobby Ferguson playing then, Lou? Well, Bobby Ferguson was all West Ham's goalkeepers. I mean, before goalkeepers had to be good footballers, all West Ham's goalkeepers would join in with keepball, and they all had to be good footballers. So it'd be easy for a Doddle from now, all this passing the ball back and kicking it out. But they was all good, and he was a really good footballer, Bobby Ferguson. And I remember we was coming down out the tunnel, and Martin Chivers was playing with them, and he sort of said to Bobby Ferguson, "What are you doing here? Why aren't you in goal?"
Yeah, I was going to lob you.
Yeah, I mean, not a great game though, was it? Because we lost 6-1. But
we was just a scratch side. I mean, because it would have been filled with half the youth team who was playing in the Youth Cup semi-final the next day. So it was really a few reserves that they've put in, plus whoever was left, really. And I think, out of their team, I think all 11 of them had played first team football, and the ball was fizzing about, I tell you. And what they decided to do is they said we'd go man to man at the back, and Boycey would play behind us, which he was brilliant at, you know. But we was just running around in circles because they was just it was going here, there, and everywhere.
I mean, that was April the 1st. April the 5th, you just 4 days later, you're playing in a reserve in the South East Counties League now, back to the youths, with Nigel Spinks is back in goal again. Yeah, this is against Portsmouth at Chad Relief. Creasy, Murphy, Fraser, Alvin Martin, Rochester, Hill, Terry Urlock again, Terry Sharp, John Domphy, and a Jones.
And they had Chris Kamara playing for them.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Unbelievable, Jeff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking here through where you went. You went on a youth tour to Utrecht. Do you remember going on that?
Do you mean Urek?
Urek. Oh, was it Urek? Oh,
it's
right.
Near Stuttgart. Yeah.
Oh, right, in Germany. Oh, yeah. I thought it was Utrecht, but you're right. It's Urek. So, yeah, it was Alvin Martin, Gary Sproul.
Oh, it's all the same. And they that team won the tournament. And Johnny Domphy, he won. He didn't win the Player of the Tournament award. He won the Most Beautiful Player award.
Mm-hmm. Comes out a lot, that story.
Yeah.
I had a good time in Germany. I've got photos of that. For those who wonder how I sort of have some kind of prior knowledge over Nigel's cousin, over Nigel, is I'm making a documentary film about this team with Alvin. And if I could make a film as good as it is when we go down the pub and have a good chat about the old times, well, they do. I obviously wasn't there. If I could make a film encapsulating these drinks in the bowling and in the Black Lion, I'd win an Oscar. But I can't. I could never better portray the fun they have, because a lot of the stories, obviously, they won't say on camera.
Yeah.
A lot of the scandals, especially Curbishley, he knows everyone, knows every scandal and this, that, and the other. I'm very privileged, I'd say, to sort of be part of it, and you'll see bits of it soon. Hopefully, Lou might be the first of his team to come on this Proper Gander, because they're well worth getting to know. They really are. So
everyone's got a story, haven't they?
Oh, they're just a fantastic bunch, Lou. This youth team, they really are. I'm not just saying that.
No, they're great, and it's funny. We're just a load of old men, though.
Yeah, I know, but this is the funny. It's a pure divide. This team of the haves and the have-nots, the towners and the out-of-towners.
Yeah.
Yet you all get on so well, and it looked like, and I think I've caught it on film, that when you had your first big reunion, that you almost all picked up where you left off.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind that this is a team, as Lou might have alluded to, that you got pulled in the office your 18th birthday, you got told the yes or no, and you were straight out the door. There's no mobile phones. You couldn't keep in touch with each other. You were down the road. That was it. People realised you'd gone the next day, and they didn't know where you live. You never had a phone. Certainly never had a mobile phone. There's no email. You couldn't keep in touch with them. So some of these players walked out the door when they were 18. The rest of the team not even knowing they were in the office. And they didn't see them again until they had a drink up last October in the Bowling Tavern. And if you think that's an interesting story, well, we got it all on camera. So
yeah,
I hope that you will think it'd be worth watching.
I mean, one of the things is I mean, you think of Alvin. I mean, we was in the Bowling, and he's a legend, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, and you could just see the smiles on people's faces.
Yeah.
Of like, what is he doing here at the Bowling? West Ham have nothing to do with the Bowling anymore.
No.
There's Alvin in the Bowling. You know, it's not his local, is it?
It was surreal.
No.
And he
the
was...
shippies.
Yeah. But I actually had a good conversation with him and said, Jesus Christ, I said, yeah, it's really good to see you, because you know, and it's not below him, but you just think, God, I mean, you've played for like, I don't know, 20 years? How many years was it?
21 years.
You just think, you know, well, there's 20 reunions you can go to, Alf.
Yeah, why that one?
Yeah, and he just said no. He said it's an
incredible group of people.
This is where it started, and without this, nothing follows.
Yeah, he means that, you know. He says that sort of privately as
well.
well.
Yeah.
There's some kind of that was.
Yeah, do you think it's the welcome then that you local boys gave him? Then
no, we never give him.
Oh, you never give him.
No, you're fucking quite spiteful toward him.
All right, okay.
A few years ago, I mean, when I was working after I left West Ham, and I decided not to be an Orient player as well. I got a job on the council, and I was there for like 30 years. And some time ago, I mean, I left there like, I don't know, 15 years ago probably. But a few years before that, they decided to have a motivational speaker. And they had two of them. One was Tony Cotty, who come one day, and the other was Alvin. And what happened was, he just he came in, and a fella said, "Oh, one of our people knows you," and he comes striding up the hallway. It was in the town hall at East Ham. And he came up, and people was like, "Bloody hell! I didn't know Lou knows Alvin Martin." I was like famous, you know. People go, "God, Lou's famous. He knows Alvin Martin." But then he did his motivational speech. He absolutely slaughtered me. He tore me to bits. He was just taking the pee out of me all the time. And the people loved it, obviously.
Yeah.
But I mean, we probably used to give him a bit of stick. But I mean, what he achieved is, and I personally think, he's the best aerial centre half I've ever seen anywhere. I think he's the best there's been. I can't think of anyone better in the air than him.
What was it like? People may not know, because you continue to watch West Ham play. You still do to this day. So what was it like, though, watching, you know, did you go straight back over there? So you've gone to work with the council, but now Saturdays you're still watching West Ham.
Well, in the half of the season that remained, I was still in the youth team.
Yeah.
So once that had gone, I mean, I went and played for East Ham United for a little while, because a fellow said,
yeah.
And Frank Lampard was there, because he's very good friends with the manager and the owner, like. And Peter Braybrook used to be training. He'd join in the training, and I played there. They had some very good players, and they got to the last 8 of the Vars. They was on their way to Wembley. Well, I just, like I said, I'd rather go and watch West Ham, really. And I was earning a few quid as well, but I preferred watching West Ham, and it was.
But now you're watching your mates play.
Well, it's surreal, isn't it? And
yes,
yeah, I bet it is.
And sometimes they cheer and sometimes they boo, don't they?
Yeah.
And they get a bit of stick, and it's, I don't know, it's just how the game works, isn't it? You know.
Yeah. How many of your youth team do you think could get in today's team? I'll put you on the spot there, won't I?
How many?
Yeah. In today's team, or
or any team.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot worse. There's worse people than most of that team I've seen play with West Ham at one point or another. You know,
one person, I won't say who he is, only because I forgot who said it, but said it could have been the whole team could have got forms, professional forms, and of course you proved that by getting to the final against a very good Ipswich Town team. Made the majority of the team that eventually won the UEFA Cup 2 or 3 years later. But a person said, I can't for life remember who said it, which really makes it a shit story, but it said could have been any, they could have all, the law of averages said they can't all get a contract, but
I mean from that team, it's hard, because the mantra nowadays is if we can find one out of like 50 kids, we've done well. Well, off the top of my head, you got Alvin made it, Curbs made it, Paul Brush spent 7-8 years, maybe longer, 10 years West Ham. Jeff Pike, another one, 10 years West Ham, made it. There's 4 straight.
There's 4 made it there, but then Terry Urlock. Obviously late bloomer, because he travelled about a bit before ended up at Millwall in the first division, and then he's an absolute, well, not an absolute, but my mate's a big Rangers fan, and he loved him. No, legend wherever he's played.
Yeah, I sent him a photograph.
I know a fella who was a Brentford fan, and he's their best player of all time, I think.
Yeah.
Right, he was at Brentford before Millwall. Yeah. I don't know if he was at Fulham or he was definitely at Southampton. And a loved player wherever he went. Obviously didn't get the break at West Ham, But I suppose in a way, if you look at the midfield at the time, it would have been hard. And in a way, I don't know if that's why Curbs. I started going over there mid-70s.
I think the thing that happened with
I know what happened with Curbs. He told me.
Curbs is because Devonshire come along.
Yeah.
And he was an amazing player, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You know? And there was Trevor Brook in.
Yeah.
So those two were like,
I know the story. Do you want to say the story?
But those two ran about, weren't they?
Well,
and they needed someone
was...
to do the donkey work, and Curbishley was. I mean, he probably could have done it, but he was a passer,
Mm-hmm.
And Pike, he did the donkey work, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, for me, Curbishley, I don't know. I remember the big buzz when he came back with Birmingham City in 1979, the first time
Boxing
back.
Day.
Well, it weren't the Boxing Day because the game got cancelled, and then it was the Bolly Bonds Colin Todd square up.
Yeah.
Was it?
yeah, and that was Curbs' first game back. I remember Curbishley playing a lot, being a big star. He got a good run in the team. I thought the first year we went down, and obviously it was then that he decided. Well, I don't know if he decided or whatever, that Birmingham City was where he was going to go. Strange fact that he actually left Birmingham to play for Villa as well.
Yeah, it went down well.
Not many. I was going to say, not many people make that move.
After they won the European Cup as well, just to rub it in.
Yeah. Lou, there's a couple of things about your West Ham career. For me, what was it like to score a goal? Because you only got the one.
Oh, a goal was a goal. I mean, I wasn't a goal scorer, but the thing was, while I was there, I wore every number from number 2 to number 17.
Yeah, because you're playing
so
against
I'd play anywhere.
Orient, and you're listed in the programme last. So you got Sprawl in goal, Boylan, Horner, Lawrence, Debenham. These names, Baldwin, Hurlock is playing, Robinson, P. Paris, D. O'Connell, and then you.
Billy Lansdowne was playing.
You and Terry Hurlock scored in a 2-1 win against Orient.
Did we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I know I only scored. It was an header. I only scored one goal ever for West Ham because I was playing up front, and that was in the juniors. It wasn't in the youth team. It was the juniors, the fourth team, and that was when Tony Carr just started, and I was just. I think they just put me in any old position.
So this is before, this is 1974.
Yeah.
And then,
so I actually played. Sometimes I couldn't even get a game in the juniors. I mean, they used to put the teams up on a Friday, and I used to start looking from the skirting board upwards, see how far down the pecking order I was. I actually played with the reserves before I played in the youth team,
And
it's just a bit mad.
Yeah. The other thing is obviously at the same time West Ham get to the cup final, and you being a West Ham fan, obviously get to go to the cup final as part of the was there anything special? Yeah, as part of the club. What did you get to do? I know, but go on.
I know as well.
So what did you get to do on cup final day?
I was probably the ultimate quiz question for West Ham fans. Who was West Ham's other number 5 that day? And it was me. And I was in the footballer's mile. And I come last by quite a long way.
Yeah, I seem to remember that you didn't try. Would that be harsh?
No.
More concerned waving to your mates, I think.
Yes.
I did, yeah. Well,
did
my mate
give
Gary,
you a bit of a
Gary
bollocking?
Sprout. Well, the way it happened was, it was last minute stuff. And Ron Green would come around and I think he asked the reserves first, because obviously he didn't ask for. I think the idea of it is they'd have, the year before, they'd have like proper runners, like I think David Bedford or someone like that, who was like the top runner in the country.
And this is a race around Wembley. Was it a mile then? Around Wembley?
It was called the Footballers' Mile.
Right.
Yeah. And he was looking for a volunteer. All the reserves, they didn't fancy it. And he said, who wants to do it? Well, no one's going to volunteer, are they? So he just went, right, no one's volunteered. You can do it, Lou. You can run a mile. And I was like, oh dear. And you just think, yeah, I'd like to do it, because where would you like to be, really? You know, cup final day, running around Wembley. Not that bad, is it?
In a West Ham shirt.
In a West Ham shirt, yeah. Before, you know, it was 2:30. There's 90,000 people in the ground, isn't there? You know, so you get to do the walk, you know?
Yeah.
So if you was like, it's like winning a Disney competition, isn't it? Right. If you was just a fan and said, wow, I get to do that. But,
it was on telly. I remember my mum shouting at the telly.
It's on both sides at once.
Yeah,
you don't get that to do that very often.
That's true. You know, I don't remember my mum watching many football games, to be honest, Lou. But she did watch you do that.
I know. I never told anyone.
No.
My mum nearly had a heart attack watching it. And my dad was in the ground with my uncle. And first of all, my uncle kept saying to people, oh, that's his boy. That's his boy. But as I gradually fell behind, I think he sort of just put his head in his hands. And my brother, I mean, the comical thing was my brother, he was on terraces. I didn't tell him either. And he said the name. I don't know whether you could see it was me. And he went, what's he doing in it?
He don't run.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the precursor was, I think I was in the Nurm Schools Championships for the mile, and I come about 11th. So it ain't going to go well, is it?
No. No.
But it was an experience. I mean, you know, I remember standing in the tunnel, and because of what time it was, all the players was inspecting the pitch, you know. And so they all walked up, and Ron Green would come up, oh, hello, Lou, how you going, all right? And Pete was saying, everyone saying, and all these blokes go, bloody hell, you know a lot of people, don't you? I was thinking, well, I'm at West Ham, aren't I? So all the other fellas were there. And then Mervyn Day comes by, and he says, what are you doing here? You're useless.
Oh, dear. All right, before we finish then, Lou, you're still going West Ham now?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on modern day West Ham?
I think it's modern day football. I think we see the best of football as a game where teams compete. It's gone. I mean, it's phenomenal what you know, Guardiola and people like that have done, but I don't think football's as good. You sound like a dinosaur saying that. But I sort of fell out of love with it a bit when Man United played Barcelona in the European Cup final at Wembley. And Barcelona got a corner and passed it back to centre circle and started from there. It was like all choreographed, and it's just, I mean, they're amazing teams, but it just, quite often I find it boring, which is, I think that's why sometimes when people say you don't get the atmosphere, is because they don't move the ball very quickly, you know. They pass it around at the back and they go round in a horseshoe from right back round to left back.
Yeah,
back
ball
again.
possession.
And it's just, it's nothing, you know. And very often nobody risks the ball anymore. That's what I think, you know. They just won't risk the ball, so they don't go forward. I mean, the good teams do because they can do it. They do what they like. But the other teams, you don't risk the ball, so you hang on to it as long as you can. It's just, I think that's why you say there's like a lack of atmosphere. Well, no one's going to get out of their seat and start shouting and hollering until it goes over the halfway line and we're attacking, aren't they?
Mm.
I do.
But
I don't
You're
stop
just
shouting and hollering. Yeah.
I'm too far away to notice. But
well,
yeah.
so am I. Yeah. I mean, I was I think if you can't read the name on the shirt, you're too far away.
Yeah,
That's what I feel.
I can't read the numbers now.
Really?
I'm that far away. Yeah, I am
Jeez.
that far away.
Must be cheap though.
It is cheap. Well, you reminded me. I've got to renew it today. So yeah, it is cheap.
I renewed mine, and I wasn't gonna.
No, me as well.
Yeah.
I got talked into it.
Oh, well done. I'm glad you have.
You were one of them that talked me into it.
It's a bad drug, isn't it? Like, can't get away.
It is the way Nigel serves it.
All right, Lou. I've got a couple of quick fire questions then. So, best player played with?
Played with. I don't know. I suppose. Who did I play
They
with?
don't listen.
Suppose
By the way,
Alvin.
Lou's one of our 8 listeners, if you didn't know.
I am.
So none of you have a team. None of these
none of
players
us
who play,
listening.
they're not listeners. So don't worry about upsetting people.
I ain't upset. I mean, probably. Well, I mean, certainly the one who achieved the most is. Mind you, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I remember when we were school kids, and we was training with West Ham, and then sort of Ron Greenwood said to like me and Brush, he said, "You get a day off school, just turn up. You can come any time you like." And I think we had one of these, I don't know what they call it, inset days or something. And it was just me and him. There was no one else, the other fellas there. So we was training with the youth team, and I played the reserves. And I had this tall blonde fella who was on his last legs at West Ham playing in the reserves, and he was playing middle and midfield, and Brushy was playing against him. And we was school kids, and I was marking Dudley Tyler.
Yes, from Hereford. Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thrill I ever had in football, being on the same pitch as him, Bobby Moore. Because he was just, I mean, he's easily the best player ever played at West Ham.
Yeah. So why did it take you so long to get there to say the answer? You knew
But
it
I
was
That
Bobby
was a good
Moore.
build-up, though. That was a good
It
build-up.
was a good build. I knew it was coming.
Well, I do think, the greatest hammer of them all is Bonzo, though. So that's a way of getting around both.
All right.
Yeah.
So, best player you played against?
Probably Glenn Hoddle, I suppose.
A lot of people said that.
He was that good as a kid. Well, he was, wasn't he?
Oh, we played. We used to play Spurs in what was illegal games then in school holidays, and he was playing, and he just stood out. But we played his school when we won the national. We played his school, Burnt Mill in Arlo, and so there's all us towners, yeah. So they're like. We was like kids, Canning Town, all over Norham, come to our school. So we had a few bruises in there, and we beat them 6-0. But I remember we got the ball on the halfway line, and with everyone trying to kick the shit out of him, he managed to get down to the corner flag without dropping it. And that's what he was. Phenomenal talent.
All right. I mean, to wrap it up, I don't know. I've looked forward to doing this for a long time. As a little kid, Lou, one of my abiding memories is watching your mum iron your West Ham kit in the back room. We was never allowed in the front room. I don't know why. But we're sitting in the back room watching your mum and seeing that. And it was the away kit, funny enough, I always remember, was the blue with the claret hoops. And your mum was ironing it. And I did wonder what it'd be like to wear it, which obviously I was never going to be anywhere near that. And I've never forgot the first time you took me West Ham as well, which was against Swansea.
Was it?
Yeah. Another time I was at your mum's, and rather than go with my uncle, you allowed me to go with you, and it was on the West Terrace before the seats went in. 1979. I've got a good memory.
Like you have.
Yeah. So yeah, it was yeah, you were sort of like a little hero to me. Well, not a little hero. I was, you know, it was great.
He was only 27.
Well, yeah. I was, 5, 6, 7 years old,
Yeah.
and it was a big thing for me anyway. So thanks for agreeing to do this, Lou.
Yeah, nice
all right.
one, Lou.
I hope you've enjoyed it,
Yeah, it's been quite good. Yeah,
and
been all right.
and hopefully we can get a few of the others on to come on, and
I've have some great stories.
have
but,
a
yeah.
little chat. Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap up now. Anything else you want to say, Len, before?
No, not at all.
Wrap up?
I've enjoyed it. It's been quite brandy and cigar-like, and quite leisurely.
Yeah. Well, I hope the listeners have heard it. Let us know what you thought. And listen out in the coming weeks, because me and Lou will be back during the summer, and I'm sure old Tubby Little Legs will come back as well at some point and give you a transfer update that we've signed nobody and we're not going to. But until then, thanks for listening, people, and see you next time.
Getting to know you, having a good nose about you, having a gander, looking at what makes you tick.